photographs.
Sometimes pacey. Now when she goes into default, she would always do a pacey telt. So she wouldn't ever do a trotty telt. But this was also in the pace now comes more and more with age. And we also say like the really good pace horses are quite old. So the pace is a gait that develops even later than the other gaits. So if we get a young 5-gaiter like Alda for example, it will take really years for them to kind of establish a proper flying pace.
Do you think the 4-gaiter is a bit easier then, generally?
I think it always depends. I think it depends on what... I think a 4-gaiter is easier if you have one that has 4 nice separate gaits. I think if you get a 4-gaiter that has like really a lot of trot, like our friend Alex for example, she got a 4-gaiter and it took her about 4 years to get him to telt. That's really hardcore then. Then it's easier the 5-gaiters because they have more lateral, they kind of do the telt easier. But with those guys, you then need to make sure that you don't lose them into like a pacey telt. So this is where I always say, I think it's hard to tell if something is easier or more difficult. I think it depends a lot on the horse. I think you have 5-gaiters that have a lot of like natural good telt, but then to start to develop the pace. But if you get a 4-gaiter with that finds it so hard to telt, this is a bit boring. I think she will be very, very good in pace competitions. So to do like a pace test or speed pace or anything like that, but I also would like to ride her a little bit in 5-gate. So this is where I, in my training now, have to make sure that I do train the pace a little bit, but I don't overtrain it, that she gets too pacey and kind of loses the other gaits. This is, I think, where with the 5-gated horses it's a bit tricky sometimes how much pace you're actually training with them and how much you then have to focus again a bit more on kind of lightness and on trot and on telt work to kind of keep the balance, to always keep the gaits as clear and as separate as possible. After you have like 5 gaits you want to train, you kind of just have one more gate. Try and keep her always also in the shoulder in. It's important when we ride exercises that I always feel the horse a little bit, I have a slight contact. And then what I work on a lot at the moment is to kind of ride her up into telt. Good. And kind of keeping her quite low in the neck. So I start off in a little bit of a lower neck. And now we can see what she's doing now when we look at her. She's still a little bit pacey in telt, so she's not clearly beaten yet. She has a good top line, but she's still holding her back a little bit. So when I feel that she's holding the back a little bit, what with her is important is that she's starting to use her hind legs a little bit more. So what I do is I slightly bend her to the side, bring the whip a little bit on the inside hind leg, and increase my pressure with the inside leg. So to get her more active from behind. That's already a better beat now. That step took me like 20 minutes. It took me like 20 minutes to really open her back up. The more I ride her and the stronger she gets and the more she kind of understands a little bit what I want from her, the shorter this kind of warm-up is in the beginning to get her into a good telt. From a form point of view, she's now in like a nice contact, she's nicely rounding the neck. Good. She is still for a competition point, from a competition point of view, She's still a little bit too low. She could carry herself a little bit higher. Just listen to the beat a little bit. It's very, sounds like and here before I ride her up into tail, I always want to get her a little bit soft in the side. So that was nice. There she was nice and soft in the side. Same thing, she started the first steps a little bit pacey. This is very often with the 5-gaiters. Just start off a bit lateral. Usually when you push the horses a little bit from behind, you get a nicer rhythm and a nicer beat to hold them. On the left side, comparing that on the right, a little bit of a rein contact. I'm working a lot on kind of low and deep form because with her, the lower she goes in trot, the better the suspension. So I feel like the more she puts her head kind of in a nice position, the higher she allows me to stand up in the saddle. So this is kind of speaking for good trot quality. Again, if I let go of the reins a little bit, she will just lose herself. This happens if I just let go. You see how like stiff she now holds her head, and now we're in the flying pace. So this is kind of her default, would now be the flying pace in sound school. But that's like how quickly it goes from a nice trot. If I just lose it a little bit, I lose everything. And this is why I say, or why I said in the beginning, it looks nice and easy, like when I do a nice trot in here on the foam, but what it requires, and if I do it wrong 1 second, I think this is what people sometimes don't see, is what happens if you lose it for 1 second. I mean, everything gets lost. Good. Yeah. And she's gotten much stronger, like this part of her neck here has gotten much stronger. In the beginning, when we first started training her, she was super straight here. The neck was quite like skinny, and now the more we're training her, the more we're kind of training the muscles she will need to actually keep her neck. And the more muscles she has here, so the easier it is for her to round on herself, the more I can then ask her to lift herself, because she will have the strength to actually hold herself without me having to pull her. And this is Hector. Hector is now compared to Saga. He's a 4.5-gaiter. He doesn't actually have flying pace, but he can go quite basic.
How old is he?
He is 9 now, I think.
9?
So for example, the 4.5-gaiter, he would have better canter than an actual 5-gaiter, but he can do a pacier tilt in a fast speed. It's quite easy for them to move. The taller and the bigger they are, the more difficult it is for them, yeah. What he, for example, has, much better than Saga, he has very good walk. Like when you look at how big he can like walk with his hind legs, how big he can actually like overreach. Good. He really has like a very good and long medium walk. So this is from a competition point of view. He has a very strong walk to kind of only lighten and soften her. With him I use the shoulder in also to teach him to kind of bring the shoulders a little bit up. So there's a little bit what we're doing with Nauta, for example, there is to use exercises for him not to be kind of too long and too low, but to kind of actually learn to carry a bit from behind and lift himself a little bit higher. And he also in the beginning, when he came, he had extremely weak hind legs. He always started to do these weird steps in between when he lost strength in the hind legs. So I'm kind of working a lot on using also exercises to build strength in the hind legs, because the strength in the hind legs is very important to do a to write a nice outline in Telt and to get them to round in the neck in Telt nicely. What he has is, we can see he has a bit of a like quicker steps in Saga. He takes smaller steps, he takes more steps. And I work with him in the beginning because his step size is a bit smaller and he kind of takes quite quick steps. So I want with him to kind of lengthen the top line a little bit, because as we said, the longer top line helps us to kind of lengthen the steps a little bit. So I want him to be round, but I always try to offer him that he can kind of stretch the neck a little bit forward into the form. Little bit the same thing I do when with paddler. It's kind of the same idea of training. You want them to be round, but then to kind of also stretch the neck a little bit forward. Or Vilja also has the same thing. They also try to hold themselves. But what he has, for example, he has good feet in Telt. He's now, even though he has a good feet in Telt, he's not fully open yet. He also needs a bit of a time to warm up in Telt. Lengthen the top line, so I want to keep. Start a little bit with the canter. But in the canter, basically I don't really do much in my seat. I kind of more stand on top of him and let him find his balance. And I kind of only, I never really fully sit in the canter. I also don't have my legs on much. I think that's also a big difference. Also like the canter 8, you don't do this kind of one leg forward and the other leg back.
Yeah, you did it on the straight.
Yeah, exactly. I just let go of the inside rein and kick a little bit with the inside leg, or I like to say hop. Hop usually is the easiest. With hop they all learn it. Try the other side as well a little bit.
Yeah.
What the warmer he gets, because then he's starting to actually take stronger steps in her leg. It's the easiest for them.
Marie normally gives her.